Hi YouTube, Brian James, I'm Mega 4/3 guy with you once again, but today's video is not a photography video. If you want a photography video, you can carry on watching by all chance, but you're not going to get one. But it may be interesting for you all the same, so keep on watching by all means. But this is an answer to a question from quite a few of my viewers when I've mentioned about the fact that I'm planning on emigrating to a European country. They've asked me how I'm going to go about it and why. Well, I'll tell you how I'm going about it in this video. Why is for a different time, but in this particular one I'm going to tell you how I'm going to get a citizenship of another country, and this is how I'm going to go about getting an Irish citizenship because of grandparent rights. Now, before I go on, this is not a how-to necessarily, this is just a reflection of how I've gone about mine. So don't take this as total advice. Always check with professionals, check on the website, but this is my journey down there. So if you want to follow me on my journey, let's go on and roll titles, and I'll see you soon. And yes, I'm replying to a few people who've asked me how I'm going to be going about my emigration to another EU country. And I'm going down the Irish citizenship route. There are lots of different ways to get citizenships. Some are expensive, some are relatively inexpensive, some are free. This is a very inexpensive way, but it's a very effective way to do it. So most citizenships you can get through either big investment. You can put lots of money into a country and live there as you're doing that and put bank accounts over there for a set period of time, or you can just live there for a set period of time, which takes longer, but show that you're part of the system and get residency in a country through that method. But also you can go in, if you're an EU citizen, anywhere in the EU to work and to live. And you still apply for residency, but it's an awful lot easier as an EU citizen to go to another EU country. And this is my method of doing so. Now, I decided I wanted to look at my Irish roots a long time ago, well before all the COVID and well before all the Brexit, but I was a bit scared how to do it. I didn't really know how to do it. And it's only in the last few years that I've really started to push. I realised that a lot of the people who I could have talked to about my ancestry weren't here anymore. My grandparents on both my maternal and paternal side are deceased. My mum and dad have been deceased for 30 years. And some of the people left in the family, we're not a huge family anymore, some of the people left in the family have conflicting reports as to what's what. So let's take a step back as to the methods that we can do it. Well, I'm going for an Irish citizenship, and I'm going for an Irish citizenship because my grandmother, Ada, or Adelaide, was, I believe, born on the island of Ireland. And when I say the island of Ireland, if I refer to Ireland in this in any way, I'm talking about citizenship of Éire, which is the largest section of Ireland. But when I'm on about being born on the island of Ireland, I'm on about the whole lot. That's what we now know as Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and also Éire. So anywhere on that big landmass is classed from birth as Irish. Now, if your parents were born in Ireland, you've got a big advantage, because if your parents were born on the island of Ireland, either of your parents, mum or dad, you are automatically an Irish citizen. All you need to do is apply for your passport and go through that route, and that can be all done online. With me, it's slightly different because my parents were both born in the UK, in Newcastle. My grandmother, Ada, was born, I believed, on the island of Ireland, in a place called Castlebar. She actually lived, there's a little village outside called Ballina, but I believe it was Castlebar she was actually born and registered, and that's in County Mayo, on the west side of Ireland. And it's always been something of a conversation piece in the family. I've always wanted to follow my Irish roots and find out more about it, and find out, I wanted to visit where she was born and all sorts of things like that. And I'm really looking forward to visiting Ireland and finding out my true roots at some point. But I want to do it as an Irish citizen. I don't want to do it as an English citizen. So that set me off down this route. Now, Ireland, like most other countries, you can get a citizenship by investing money in. You can get a citizenship by taking up residence there and applying for residence and then staying there a certain number of years and fitting several other criteria and then applying for citizenship. If that's the case, there's a nice big citizenship ceremony. If you're already an English speaker, then it's ideal because Ireland speak English as well as Gaelic. But the majority are English speakers over there. So if you're already an English speaker, it's a great passport to have, a great citizenship to have. And there's usually a nice big ceremony. Now for me, there's not, because I'm a sort of half and half. I'm what's classed as a foreign born, and I will be going on the foreign born register. And that's a little bit of an easier method than going any other route, but with less pomp and circumstance. So for me, my starting point was to confirm my grandmother was born in Ireland. And that was a bit of a problem because my great-grandparents, which was Annie and Richard, Annie was Irish. She was born in Ballina and in County Mayo. My great-grandfather was born in Preston in Lancashire in the UK. And he was a British soldier over there before the First World War. Now my grandmother was born in 1914. She was one of 7 siblings, and the problem with that was the 3 siblings before her were all born in Ireland. We knew that. The 3 after her were all born in Aldershot or Woolwich, because that's where my great-grandfather was posted with the British Army. But we weren't sure about my grandmother. My grandmother, according to some members of the family, was born in the UK at Woolwich. According to other members of the family, she was born in Ireland at Castlebar. And because I don't have those relatives, the main relatives to actually ask anymore, I had to do a bit of digging. So I did some work on Ancestry.com, did a little bit of family tree, found out who my grandmother's parents were and their parents, my great-great-grandparents, and found out as much detail as I could. I then had to go online onto the Irish Births, Deaths and Marriages Register and apply for a birth certificate. Now that cost me about €20, and there's €20 of wasted money if she'd been born in Woolwich or Aldershot. So I had to take a bit of a gamble on that one. So I sent off as much details as I could, filled the form in, sent my money off, and waited. And waited. And waited. And eventually I got an envelope through the post, and that envelope through the post had a birth certificate, an official copy of my grandmother's birth certificate, which is great. I'd made the first start. I knew that she was an Irish citizen because they confirmed she was born in Castlebar, County Mayo. So that's my first step. The next step, if you're going to go down this route, is you need to get as many details together as possible. Now, only one of my grandparents was born in Ireland, so there's 3 who weren't. So they can be moved out of the way. We don't need to worry about those too much, except for one, which is my maternal grandfather. And he comes into this now because before you can apply for an Irish citizenship through grandparent rights on the foreign born register, then what you have to do is get a lot of details together. You need to get that official copies. These have all got to be official copies or official documents. So it's not good just getting a photocopy. It must be an officially produced document. And if you don't have the originals, you have to apply to the correct registration authorities in the country you're coming from. So for me, I needed to have that grandparent's birth certificate. I needed to have her wedding certificates, her marriage certificates. And I needed to have her death certificate because she's no longer living. I needed a death certificate from her. Those I had to send off through the British registration system because all these forms I didn't have. Now, she had several daughters, but the only daughter I was worried about was my mother, Dorothy. And I needed to have a copy of my mother's birth certificate, which showed she was born in the UK, her marriage certificate, and her death certificate. She wasn't divorced, so there was no divorce certificates. If you have any of those people were divorced in that time, you need to have copies of the divorce and remarriage certificates and all sorts of things. But you need a complete paper trail of births, marriages, deaths and divorces. So I had those for my mother. The next thing I needed was my own birth certificate and my own wedding certificate, my own marriage certificate. Now at the moment I didn't need a death certificate because as far as I know, I'm still alive, so I'm not quite dead yet. So they didn't get a death certificate for me, which is quite handy really, because it makes the video much easier to make if I'm still alive. So that was all the paperwork I needed. And as I say, they need to be official paperwork, official copies, not photocopies. When I did that, I had to go online and it cost me, I think it was €275, but you put all the details online of all those dates and times, and it's done through the Irish government website. Let's just see if I can find out what the details of that website are. and to give you an address on that, and it is just ireland.ie. And if you look up FBR, a foreign birth register, that'll take you straight to the right place. There's a few forms you have to fill in. It's not overly complicated, but you have to make sure that you get each one filled in. So as you fill in each stage, it won't take you to the next stage until you've completed everything you need from the first stage. When you complete all those stages by putting down birth certificate numbers and dates of birth and places of birth and all those sort of things, then you come to the end and it says, can I have €275 please? And that's quite scary when you've got no guarantee what's happening. But you said, I put my €275 in, and I got emailed a nice form, pre-filled in for most of it, giving me the next step. Now the next step was more details. I had to have 4 passport photos to the Irish passport standard. I had to have 4 photos, 2 of which have to be authorised by professional people. There's a whole list of professional people that they will accept. So you need to make sure that they are signed, and also the paperwork is signed as authenticating that you are you by people named on that form. The form itself is straightforward. You then need to put that form with the photographs and anything else, because there's a few things it asks you for on the form, but basically all the certificates, all the photographs, all the signatures can be, I had mine signed for instance by a chartered engineer, and I used one of his business, I was allowed a business card or headed paper from his company to actually authenticate who he was, and also for him to authenticate that the pictures were correct and the forms were correct and it was really me. So they were sent off, and I looked on the website and it said that its approximate turnaround time is 2 years. That's a long time to wait, and the reason it's been 2 years is because of the amazing amount of people who have applied for Irish citizenship online. So I'll come back to that in a few moments. At the moment, all my forms have been sent off to them. I've spent €275 plus all the cost for every certificate to be done, and each certificate's about €20, £25, depends on what it was. So it's been quite expensive now. I've spent a good couple of £100 on top of the €275 just to get to this stage. And I've put all those papers, the official papers, into an envelope, sent them off. Scary when it's your birth certificate, original copy. Scary when it's an original copy of your marriage certificate and all sorts of things. And that's been sent off. So let's have a look. Before we carry on, keep watching by the way, because I'll tell you where I'm up to very, very soon. But let's look into why the Irish passport is such a good one to have. Well, some passports are particularly expensive to get. You might have to invest millions into a company to be able to get a citizenship of a company. Some passports are very difficult to get insofar as you've got difficult ties from different places. Some passports are more effective than others because some passports will get you in almost nowhere, whereas an Irish passport is very, very good on various fronts. First of all, if you are going on a foreign born register, it's fairly straightforward. And as I say, if your parents, either of your parents are born on the island of Ireland before 2005, you're automatically a citizen. Just apply for the passport, it's easy. The Irish passport though is a very good one. It's rated in the top 5, high in the top 5 on most lists as to the best passports to have in the world. First of all, I don't need to renounce my UK citizenship. With an Irish passport and the UK passport, you can have dual citizenship. Many countries make you renounce previous citizenships to become a citizen. So that's a really big plus. I don't have to give up my UK citizenship. In fact, you can have as many citizenships as will accept it with an Irish passport. Very, very good on that. So that's the first big bonus. I don't have to burn my bridges and forget my roots over here. Secondly, the Irish passport can get into almost all countries in the world without big serious problems with visas and issues with that. So an Irish passport will get you around the place very, very well, very easily, and be accepted in most places, including the United States, which sometimes can be a little bit difficult. So US, Canada, obviously the whole of the EU, because it is an EU passport, it is a European Union passport. That will get you anywhere in Europe, and you're not then limited to the 90 days out of 180 rule. Although when you do go to a country for longer than that, I mean most countries, certainly in Europe, it's 90 days out of 180, it's almost universal. That's wherever you go in EU. So if you go to say Spain, and France and Cyprus all inside that 90 days, that goes towards the 90 days. So it all gets taken up. It's not per country. But it does mean that once you do that, and you're more than 90 days, then in most countries, if you're a resident for more than the 90 days there, you have to apply for residency in that country. And that's fairly straightforward. As an EU citizen, it's basically a paper trail exercise. And the important thing with that is it does give you a visa to work. You don't have to apply for a separate work visa. As an EU citizen, you can relocate and you can work in any EU country. Very important point that. And the size of the EU, it's a great way to do it. The other thing that it's respected for is just that the fact that because you can go almost anywhere, it means it's a very valuable document to have. It really does mean that you've got almost an open door to travelling anywhere in the world just about and be accepted. More than a UK passport is, which is quite surprising. A UK passport has always been a very universal passport, but the Irish one beats it. So why do I want this passport? Well, as I say, I want to emigrate, and I'll tell you more about the emigration story later. But one of the things I really want to do is I want to go across and find out my roots. I want to go across and find out where my great-grandparents were from, my great-great-grandparents were from, my grandmother was from. So I want to go across to Castlebar, I want to go to Ballina, and I want to go and trace my roots. I want to trace my roots as an Irishman. I don't want to go across there as an Englishman and explore it. I want to have my Irish citizenship and go across there. And that's vitally important for me. I think if I'm going to go and cross and see where my in-laws all came from, I really want to, my ancestors all came from, I really want to go and see there. Anyway, back to the story about where I'm at. So I left you a few moments ago that I'd sent off €275 and all my documents. That was last November. Now, as I say, it's been saying on the website 2 years to process because they had millions of people apply during the lockdowns of COVID to try and go get an Irish citizenship. So I've been monitoring the website carefully. I sent it off at the end of November last year, and on the 12th of December 2023 I received an email back from the Foreign Born Register office in Ireland saying that they had that they'd actually received and were processing my documents. Now that was really important for me because if they're unable to process your documents, if you made any omissions, if you made any incorrect forms being sent, if you haven't signed the right paperwork, it will all be immediately returned to you. There's no questions asked. If there's one thing wrong, they'll send the whole thing back for you to fix. They don't mess about with it. They don't try, and they just straight back. They've got far too many people going through there. So to receive that email for me was vitally important, to say that they've received it and they were processing it. But the website, when I looked on, said about 2 years, and there's no way of monitoring how far through you are. You just have to wait. So it's been quite a tense time because I really want this thing to happen. 2 weeks ago, I was looking on a Facebook page which specialises in Irish citizenships, not just the Foreign Born Register for the grandparents, but all the different types of Irish citizenships. And they said on the grandparent rights, it was now down to 9 months. So I quickly looked on the website, and there it was, 9 months. Now, why is that important to me? Because 9 months from sending it is August. 9 months from them sending the receipt back to say they're processing it is September. So to get my passport, to get my citizenship through, it could be as early as August or September this year. So I'm really excited about that. So what's the next step? Say they send it back. What happens when they send it back? Well, effectively all you get is a nice little form saying, yep, you're a citizen. No ceremony for me, because I'm not having to swear an allegiance to a foreign country. I'm already going to be a citizen, an accepted citizen, so I don't have to go through the citizenship process to prove that I can speak the language and prove that I'm already going to be a citizen. And that's an important point as well, because that ceremony is quite costly, so I don't have to pay for that, which is really good. As soon as that comes on my doorstep, I then go online and I can start the process to order my Irish passport. And for a first passport it takes a little bit longer, but they're talking somewhere around about the 28 to 36 days turnaround time, which has really come down again because it was several months. So the theory is before Christmas this year I could be an Irish citizen with a valid Irish passport. And that will get me not only into Ireland, which I'm over the moon about, because I want to go across there. It's going to be one of my first trips, is to go across to County Mayo and see my ancestral home. But also it gives me the opportunity to go to other European countries, because I will be an EU citizen. And that's really good. I will still be a British citizen, a UK citizen, so I'll still have my UK passport. But because I will have an ERA passport, an Irish passport, I'll be an EU citizen again through that route, and I will be a dual citizen. I'm really, really looking forward to that happening. Now, if you've actually been down this route, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what your journey's been like, if you're already on that. If you are in the process of looking in towards this, then again, hopefully this is useful information for you. But as I said, don't take it as gospel, because it could be different in your circumstances. Each person's circumstances are different. But if you have enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up and a like, because it is an unusual video for me, and hopefully it'll be an interesting one for you. But until the next time, this is Brian James, that Micro Four Thirds guy, saying thank you to all my Patreon patrons, and until I see you next time, bye bye.